Hello. I'm going to tell you a story. There was once a guitarist and singer, which was a very sought after skill at one point, which meant that he was a very busy boy depping for lots of different bands. Just in case you don't know. Now, one of these bands we will call band number 1, a function and wedding band, which he really enjoyed working with. He loved the people in the band, he enjoyed their company, every gig was fun, and when the time came that band number 1 decided to expand and grow their brand, the guitarist jumped at the opportunity to front a second sister band to grow alongside it. The deal was that he was to front a 3-piece wedding band which used backing tracks so that they could compete with other bigger corporate bands. The way that backing tracks worked at the time was they were mixed in such a way that the click would be on one side and the backing track would be on the other, so that you had full control to pan it either side and get just the backing track out the front of the speakers and just the click track for the musicians. That's the first piece of important information you should remember for later on in the story. Unfortunately, this venture didn't take off and the band was forgotten about quite quickly. But band number 1 itself did merge with band number 2, an already very well established corporation with a vast array of underling bands beneath them. Now, between the two bands, they had contacts for every single good quality dep there was. So they herded them all together in one area, they split them all up and put them into bands and sold them all. The guitarist thought, oh, this is good news for me. It's a chance for me to take my career forward, to take a step further into broader and greener pastures on widening horizons and such and so forth. But little did he know, that step forward took him into a dead-end alley where a dumpster butler would feed him loose change. But we all know what that's like. Those dumpster butlers can be so persuasive. But that's a story for another time. Now, the deal with this new band was he was to front, yet again, another band, this time a 4-piece band. They were to use backing tracks again as an industry standard. And yes, again, they would be mixed in a way that the click would be on one side and the track would be on the other side. This is the second piece of important information to remember for shortly, soon after this, for the next bit. So things were fine for a while. The guitarist enjoyed the company of the band. They enjoyed playing together, travelling across the country, pleasing brides and grooms from Land's End to the other Land's End. When one day he had a phone call from management. Do you remember that band that we made a while ago? Yeah, the 3-piece one. Yeah, well, I've double booked you. I have this weekend. We got 5 days to split the band up, and you're gonna go to that one, and we'll get you some deps and things. We'll sort it all out. Okay? Bye. The guitarist was quite nervous about this, and when he gets nervous, he prepares as best as he can. He was in contact with the bassist and the drummer. He sent them the tracks, made sure they knew the set. Through this correspondence, they'd found out that the management had found them on social media. They'd never worked with them before, they'd never heard of them before. But what else would you do when you've poached every dep but trawl the mulch of social media for any kind of crumbs of musicians that slip through the net? What's the chances that they're going to know what they're doing, be reliable, and don't have any previous grievances with the corporation? But the guitarist had no choice but to go along. This was a wedding. He didn't want to let a bride down. He was going to perform to the best of his ability and make sure that these two people that he didn't know knew what they were doing. He was reassured by the drummer that the tracks were all great. He was well versed in playing to backing tracks. He knew how it all worked. The bassist knew the set. He was very familiar with all the songs. And they just went ahead with the gig. They turned up, sound checked. They tried out the backing tracks, tried the first song. And to everyone's surprise, what came out of the speakers at the front? The click and the backing track at the same time. Now, what does this mean, everyone? It means the drummer did not download the tracks. The guitarist turned to him and said, "What's going on here?" And the drummer said,
"Oh, well, these are the songs, aren't they?"
Yeah, they're the songs. You're just sampling them. They are in the file that I sent you. You know, you've got to download them.
Oh, I can't download them.
Well, that was a shocking revelation. This meant they could not use that setup. They could not use the backing tracks on the drummer's laptop. They could not use the set that they'd planned and they'd rehearsed. They couldn't even use the track for the first dance song. So the first thing the guitarist did was speak to the bride and sell it in a way that he preferred a acoustic version. It suited the room better, and it sold. The bride agreed, and that was that done. That's the first hurdle. The next hurdle was the whole rest of the set. So the guitarist spent 10 minutes looking through his phone, digging through and scraping together a set made up of all the different old backing tracks that he found on his phone. Now this is a outright no-go for the guitarist, always has been, never played tracks from a phone. But he had no choice. The tracks were scraped together from band number 1 and corporation number 2 backing tracks, which seemed okay. They put together a set list that the three of them knew they could play together, and they just started the set as normal. They played the first dance, went into the first song, great. Second song, great. Third song, all they could hear coming out of the front of the speakers for the audience was the click. Now what does this mean, boys and girls? It means that the random assortment of tracks that the guitarist put together, half of them had the click in the right, half of them had the click in the left. So he had to spend the whole gig running back and forth through every single song going to the mixer to make sure that they pan the right way so that only the track comes out the front and only the click goes to the musicians. It was absolute hell, but he did it. He got through it, and he was commended at the end of it by the sound of the band. Even though the bassist was a very old school bassist, said that he knew the songs when he didn't know the songs. He decided to wing it halfway through, and he needed reassurance before every song. What key is this? What key is this one? Do you want me to do this? Should I do octaves here? Is this a bass? Are these my hands? Who are you? Also, the drummer just loved big finishes, and don't we love that, everyone? After every song, a 1 minute thrash around on every massive metal drum thingy, whatever they're called, constantly building up into a crescendo of nothingness, just to be glared at a guitarist and bassist, and then they go into another song. And then it starts all over again at the end of the song, and then they go into another one, and it just keeps going round and round and round and round and round and round and round.
Subscribe!